three. Going for the St. Louis now.
Oh no! Son of a bitch.
You get your two?
Yeah. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course, and today we are going to take a look at a battle on Trident. Yes, so you can see once again I am grouped up with Lynwolf and Beerman, another one of the games that we had played a few days ago now, I guess. Anyway, we're all in battleships. Now, we do all decide right at the beginning that we are going to be heading over towards the east side of the map. Because we figure that that's probably where the majority of our team is going to go anyway, and we don't have to worry about capping, different zones and whatnot. We can basically make a push up the east and hopefully get into their base. And being 3 battleships as well, and on TeamSpeak, we can obviously coordinate our efforts as well in case, one of us might need to come back or something to that effect. Because we do have those options. The North Carolina, the Tirpitz, and the Amagi are all, decently fast battleships. The North Carolina probably is the slowest of the 3, but still, if we needed to turn around, we can do that. And we have the range to be able to engage targets, from basically about halfway across the map. You can see the range indicator there on the mini-map anyway. So we're going to head over towards the east and take a look at what's going on. Now, one of our players, I think, had radar, and I think one of the players immediately popped the radar as soon as the battle started, because instantly this Fuso pops up. This poor Fuso. So just waiting for the Fuso to come into range now. You can see as well, just continuing the turn to the east, getting myself set up to get into that direction. So we fire off the bow guns there, because the Fuso is coming at us. So I know that those shots, if they didn't have that much of a spread on them, I knew that those shots would actually be in range. But whatever, I've got the stern guns in range now as well, so the Fuso is now turning, so this opens up a better opportunity to get a few more shots into him. Then we can also see some of the enemy ships in the background. We see a Tirpitz back there as well, so we know that there are a few enemies around. There we go, my shots land, and I do actually manage to take out one of the Fuso's turrets, so that's pretty fantastic. Fuso's down to 5 turrets out of the 6 now, and the battle just started, so this is pretty good. Fuso continues to have bad luck. You can see that the player is set on fire now, because basically all of my team that can fire on the Fuso is firing on the Fuso, myself included. And we have more shots going into the Fuso now. Those ones didn't do too much at all, but whatever. You can see I'm alternating at this point in time between the bow guns and the stern guns. Now, this wasn't intentional, it's just the way it sort of worked out. Yeah, unfortunately I do ram right into a friendly Tirpitz. Didn't see that player at all, but oh well, I did get a nice Citadel hit on the Fuso, so that's decent. And you can see the Fuso is now down to half health as well. We can also start seeing a lot of the enemy ships, and even where the enemy is kind of positioning themselves. So we can see that there is, on the minimap anyway, that there are quite a few enemy ships heading towards the west. So we know that the west is going to be, a pretty big focus for the enemy here as well, but that doesn't mean that they don't have the east side here undefended, right? Shooting at a Cleveland now. Hopefully we're going to get this guy gone, but we did also catch a glimpse of some other battleships other than the Fuso, obviously, off in the distance, so we know it's going to be a bit of a struggle for the east side if the enemies remain over here as well. And in fact, looking at the minimap, you can see that a lot of the enemies, or some of the enemies who are going over to the west side, it kind of looks like they're actually turning around now, maybe even shooting up the middle, right? Maybe they'll come over to here to the east and try and do something about us. So we have the Fuso in front of us once again. You can see the Fuso is firing on me, so I'm just going to start engaging the Fuso once again, seeing if I can't get this guy gone. In terms of the team, in terms of the division, I should say, what we're doing is all 3 of us are basically sticking together, Beerman, Lynwolf, and myself, sticking together, supporting one another, and we are calling targets to try and get, the Fuso specifically and other targets of interest, to try to get them down as quick as possible so that we can just keep our push forward here. This push over on the east side that we've got going on is a decent push. It is very strong. We do have a lot of enemy ship or allied ships here with us. And we've got, not so many enemy ships now to worry about. Now, the Fuso is gone. The Fuso got taken out by some friendly torpedoes by one of our destroyers, so that is fantastic. Don't have to worry about the Fuso anymore. We got to do some pretty good decent damage there to the Cleveland. We can see friendly torpedoes on the way for the Cleveland, but the Cleveland isn't going to last long enough for those torpedoes to come in. And there we go, the Cleveland is gone, so fantastic. The enemies who looked like they were coming over here to the east, or at least pushing down the middle, it does now seem as though they've turned back over towards the west. We can see, we can catch a glimpse of them over there. But we're going to continue our push here to the north from the east side and try and get ourselves into the enemy base. But it is at this point in time in TeamSpeak that we are noticing, you know, hey look, the enemies do look like they're going to be putting some pressure on our base here. We don't have that many allied ships, and so we are considering sending one of us back anyway to kind of deal with the enemies that are making their way over towards our base. It doesn't seem to be that big of a deal at this time, but it is going to become you know, more and more of an issue as time progresses here. But in the meantime, we'll continue our push up the east here. Now, I do really enjoy playing in divisions like this. Obviously, when you're playing with people who know what's going on, that is always great, right? You know, like, we don't really have to. We did coordinate in TeamSpeak, but it wasn't. You know, we didn't say specifically like one of us is gonna lead and we're all gonna stick together and all that. No, it was just assumed right off the bat, right, that we're gonna be sticking together, we're gonna be supporting each other, and then from that, this is what we're going to be doing. And I really enjoy that, where it's not necessarily a case of, you know, telling people to go in certain directions and, you know, you need to cap this and you need to go there. It's no, we're just sticking together here, and we're just going to push together as a ball for the most part anyway, right? I mean, keep in mind we have had discussions about our base and, you know, whether or not we should be turning around and who should be turning around. Now, I'm basically in the lead, so I have no intentions on turning around. I'm going to continue sailing into this enemy base. I mean, I do see enemy ships off in the distance, and, you know, I can take shots off at them while I'm moving up into the enemy base, which is fantastic, especially considering, you know, we've got a Tirpitz over there that I'm able to put some pretty effective shots into once they land anyway, so that's not too bad at all. You can see my shots did land. I guess they were effective in that they actually hit, not effective in terms of damage done, right? But you can see at this time on the minimap, Lynwolf has decided to turn around. He was the battleship directly behind me, and Lynwolf is turning around to head through the middle, actually, to sort of cut off the enemies that way. So that's fantastic. Now, we saw all those torpedoes head for the enemy Tirpitz, and there we go, enemy Tirpitz is gone. So fantastic. Another great kill there by one of my friendly destroyers. So that is fantastic. And you can see Lynwolf there as well. He was commenting in TeamSpeak how good those torpedoes were, and gives a kudos to the destroyer captain. So that's great. But you can see now, I mean, again, continuing my push into the enemy base. We're almost there at this point in time. The battleship in our division who's behind us is Beerman, sorry, and he as well is deciding that, you know, he might start heading south and trying to do something about the enemies that are, you know, making their way towards our base here. Now, I wasn't having any of that. I mean, one of us does need to continue the push into the enemy base, and considering, again, you know, I'm the lead battleship here, I'm going to be the one that's going to continue that push. We have this enemy Oba, I think it's an Aoba there off in the distance. I got him with a few shots, did a bit of damage there, but we can see that the enemy base isn't completely undefended, right? I mean, they do have a Tirpitz way off in the distance, but there is an enemy cruiser, I believe, as well, that is in and around the enemy base, who's going to have something to say about me trying to get in here and start capping it. I mean, the battle didn't last, or, you know, isn't very old at this point in time, but you can see that we more or less have a really decent handle on things that are going on and you know, reacting to the different situations here. So I'm basically getting myself into the enemy base now, and you can see that the enemy Tirpitz over there is actually, you know, sailing right towards me, trying to get into the base and prevent my cap, obviously. And again, we do still have another enemy ship as well, who isn't very happy with the situation. There it is, another enemy Tirpitz and another enemy cruiser, actually, who aren't very happy with what's going on here. So I continue to put shots into the enemy Tirpitz that's making his way towards me. Now, I do see this destroyer, and yeah, quite concerned about the destroyer. So we need to start maneuvering here. Can't drive in a straight line. That's just opening myself up for torpedoes. Now, the enemy destroyer is coming basically right at me. I don't have high explosive loaded, but I am going to be firing shots off the enemy enemy destroyer anyway. I'm not too concerned that I don't have high explosive loaded, and I'm not willing to load high explosive. So whatever damage I do to the enemy destroyer, that's going to be, hopefully enough to take out the enemy destroyer. And we can see that I almost did actually manage to take out that enemy destroyer. If one of the allied ships around me would just be so kind as to put a shot into this enemy destroyer, he would be gone. If not, I'm just going to wait for my reload and then hopefully be able to take out the player here. So there we go, shots are out, I am reloaded, and it doesn't look very good, does it? No. So all of those miss, which was kind of tragic. You can see Lynwolf back there in his North Carolina. He did actually manage to get up here into the enemy base somewhat, but again, you can see that he's kind of turning towards the south and really just heading off the enemies and engaging them so that I don't have too much of a hassle of trying to cap the enemy base. I do have some enemy torpedoes coming in from that enemy destroyer, so that kind of sucks, but luckily I did have the hit points to be able to take a few torpedoes here, instantly repair the damage obviously, and then I'm able to hit the old repair party and get some health back as well, so that's pretty good. You can see that Beerman is basically almost into our base, so this is fantastic. We know that we're going to be able to put up a nice strong defense at the base, but in the meantime of all these goings on, it does look like a lot of the enemies decided to come back towards their base and try and do something about the situation here. Now you can see a little bit of a situation developing in front of us with the enemy Tirpitz and the enemy Cleveland. I tried to get shots out, but yeah, didn't really do too much. I guess I did about 8,600 damage to the Cleveland, but it could have been more. So you can see the Tirpitz is gone. Lynwolf was right there in front, basically just having a showdown with the Tirpitz and won. And then we've got the Cleveland here now, who is basically in front of Lynwolf. So my entire team who's up here is attempting to take out the Cleveland. I've got some shots going in myself, do a bit of damage there, and then Lynwolf gets the final kill on the enemy Cleveland. So fantastic, we don't have to worry about the enemy Cleveland anymore. We have an enemy destroyer who just pops up, and Lynwolf was a little concerned about the enemy destroyer. However, saving grace here is that Lynwolf is actually surrounded by some enemy carcasses, yes. So he doesn't take as many torpedo hits as he would have if they wouldn't have been there. I think he did end up taking 3 torpedo hits though, but it definitely would have been, I think he said 5, and it would have actually killed him. Turns out he's dead now, but he would have actually got killed there right off the bat, if those enemy ships weren't floating around there. But Lynwolf is gone, so that kind of sucks, but I'm still going, and we still do have Beerman down in our base defending the base, which is fantastic. So now that I've got, a pretty good handle on the things that are going on here up at the enemy base, especially considering, I do have more support. It sucks that Lynwolf is gone, but I do still have some more support around me. Now is an excellent opportunity to basically just drive circles in the enemy base and try and cap out the enemy base. I'm not going to, go all crazy here and attempt to kill all the enemy ships. I'm not even going to bother with that. I'm just going to stay in the enemy base and attempt to cap it. You can see we just managed ourselves another kill. There's only 3 enemy ships remaining. You could make the argument that, yeah, why don't you just leave the base and go after the remaining enemy ships, but again, nah, I'm not even going to bother. I'm going to stay in the base. I'm going to get experience and credits out of this. And obviously credits is really what I want at this point in time, considering I have the Hindenburg researched. I just need the credits to buy her. I know sadly with the patch coming on Monday, I probably won't get to play it in random battles, but still, I'll have it, so it'll be nice to actually have the Hindenburg and take her out eventually, I suppose. So we do have an enemy cruiser off in the distance. I'm going to be engaging this enemy cruiser with whatever guns I can, obviously. The cruiser was giving me a pretty nice broadside, so I was hoping to do some quick citadels here to maybe rack up a bit more damage, but no luck. Whatever, we almost do have the enemy base captured. Only going to be another few seconds here, and then we can call this battle a victory. But you can see again, in this battle, looking at a lot of the battles that I've put up where it's just me playing, I usually have some pretty high damage numbers myself. However, when it's a division like this, it's nice to see the damage spread out amongst the different people in the division, because then you really know that, right, you are really doing an effective job with teamwork and supporting one another, and it's probably contributing pretty well to the overall victory as well. So you can see I do finish 3rd overall in the team, which isn't too bad. Considering I basically just sailed right into the enemy base, sat there and capped it, shooting ships along the way, so that's not too bad at all. I was a little concerned about seeing the pink here, thinking that maybe I turned pink in that ram to the enemy. But no, no, it's just, a little bit of damage there was done, so there's the potential of becoming pink. Right now, I was just double checking this because, like, oh shit, am I going to be pink now? Because that would really suck. But again, no, it'll be pink whenever you do any bit of damage to any allies at all, even if you ram them, right? So I do walk away with credits and experience, and that is always fantastic. Now, moving into the next clip, we are on Shattered. You can see once again with Beerman and Lynwolf. Now, I am in my rune this time, and this is not going to be one of those learning from a mistake videos. No, no. Now, Lynwolf and I really wanted to play the tier 9s. I mean, obviously I wanted to play my rune as much as possible to get as much experience racked up on the ship as I possibly can. And Beerman doesn't actually have a tier 9, but he does have the Amagi, and he is working, I think he's pretty close to the Izumo, and I know the Izumo isn't going to be an amazing ship, but still, that much closer to the Yamato. Anyway, so, still bringing in the Amagi, and it was fairly well suited for this battle. You can see we got fairly lucky with matchmaking in terms of tier 9 being the best ship in the game. And you can see, in fact, Lynwolf and I are, well, all three of us are right on the top of the team in terms of overall, ships, so that's pretty great. So, being in the cruiser and with my two division mates being in battleships, I really do have to support the battleships here. And you can see that I'm actually turning away from them right now. And immediately Lynwolf says in team chat, hey cruiser buddy, why don't you give us some support? And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. I can't go off and do my own thing here. So, turn back, slow my speed down a little here just to let Beerman and Lynwolf catch up a little, and obviously I'm going to be supporting them. Now, right off the bat as well, Lynwolf and I were discussing top speeds, right? So I was talking about, yeah, my rune is pretty quick here, but I didn't realize how quick the Iowa actually is now. The Iowa is, quite a nice fast battleship at tier 9, and I think at tier 9, let's see, the Iowa is probably the fastest battleship at tier 9, isn't it? I would think so. Yeah, not 100% sure on that, but I would think so. Faster than the Izumo. Yeah. Anyway. So I was actually quite surprised with how quick the Iowa was, and you can see we're actually having a little race here. I was getting a little concerned about the island coming up in front of us, right? And I didn't want to push too far forward and suddenly have all of the enemy or enemy team spotting me and firing at me. You can see I am spotted at this point in time, so yeah, race time is probably over. So we have an enemy, or we do see some enemy ships off in the distance, but it does look like these enemy ships are headed over there to the west side, which is decent. I mean, this is good for the beginning of the battle, because if we can secure this eastern side fairly quickly, it might allow us to actually push in and take B and start a commanding lead on B. That would be something that would be very beneficial to us. So we do have an enemy ship off in the distance. It's enemy turpets, I believe, so we're going to put some shots into the turpets. I mean, why not? I've got some landmass coming up here in front of me, so it'll shield me against enemy fire that the turpet sends back to me, so that's not too bad. We do see some enemy ships over there on the west side. They have managed to cap the sea cap zone, but this is fairly typical opening moves here for this map anyway. Now that we have A, I was again supporting my battleships, but we were discussing, what are we going to do? Are we going to try and get in there at B, or are we just going to continue north, basically, and try and get in and around the enemy? And the fact that I'm with two battleships, and the Rune is a fairly large cruiser, it's probably not a great idea to go into B this early. I mean, we do still have all of our destroyers, and the enemy, more importantly, has all of their destroyers, so we do probably want to continue forward, see if we can't, do some more damage to the enemy, and maybe even get in and behind them. So that's what we're going to be doing here. So I do have the New Orleans in front of me. I get a nice little hit on the New Orleans, so that wasn't too bad at all. But you can see that we are basically sailing in a straight line at this point, trying to get close the distance as much as possible with the enemies at this time, and get ourselves in a more northerly position here to flank behind the enemy is what we're going to be attempting to do. Now, this entire game, Lynwolf is going to be right off on the starboard side of me. which is fantastic, because I benefit from this as well. And I mean, I didn't have my acoustic sonar ability up, so I had no idea these torpedoes were coming, but luckily Lynwolf and I are both able to avoid them. But I do then pop my sonar ability, just because suddenly, you know, we do know there's a destroyer, and there's the destroyer there hiding in the smoke. So thankfully we're both able to see the destroyer. Now we can actually start engaging this destroyer as well, seeing if we can't get this player gone. Now I do have armor piercing loaded up because I was firing at the New Orleans. Yeah, it's doing a bit of damage here to the enemy destroyer. I do find the German armor piercing will do, or does seem to do, a little more damage to destroyers than, you know, your typical armor piercing round that just basically goes through the destroyer and does no damage at all. I probably should have switched over to a high explosive, but again, I wasn't really considering it. More concerned about just getting the player gone as quick as I possibly could, rather than thinking about the ammo that I'm shooting at the player. But still, did a bunch of damage with that salvo, about 5,300, so the enemy destroyer is basically almost gone. I'm turning away from Lynwolf now because I see these enemies here in the middle, and I see the torpedoes on the way, so I didn't want to, I mean, I am going to circle back around and help support Lynwolf, but I didn't want to just leave the middle here totally without, you know, offering up any sort of resistance or support, resistance and support to the allies that I have here as well. So we can see an enemy cruiser. It's in Atlanta, so we just have some few final shots going out, and one of the allies gets the kill, so that's fantastic. We don't need to worry about the Atlanta anymore, and that was actually my biggest concern about the B cap here, was that Atlanta would get in there and do a bunch of damage, so I don't need to worry about this anymore. I'm going to try not to ground myself as well while I circle in and around Lynwolf and help push to the north. You can see Beerman is bringing up the rear in terms of just providing the long range support for us, which is actually quite nice as well, and it's great when you can do this with your 3-person division, right? I mean, Lynwolf in the Iowa is basically the spearhead and all of that. I'm going to be supporting him, and then in the back we have Beerman supporting us with long-range heavy support, which is, again, really useful. It comes in handy at times. Usually the enemies are so concerned about firing at Lynwolf and myself that, you know, they don't necessarily see or consider Beerman in the background a threat. Give Beerman a nice broadside, and then that you know, does a whole bunch of damage. So we do have an enemy battleship off there, off in the distance as well, that I'm putting some shots into while I'm getting back into position in and behind Lynwolf. Luckily I did get some, well, you know, that first salvo was pretty decent, but we do have 2 friendly destroyers moving in on that enemy battleship, so hopefully that enemy battleship is not going to exist for very much longer. So coming around the point of the map here, you can see that we do have some enemies in front of us, and we are, you know, successfully getting in and behind these enemies, which is pretty damn fantastic. We do have a lead, or sorry, we do have the lead in points as well. We have a pretty good lead as well. I mean, definitely the enemies, if they start racking up some kills here, they can close the distance on this pretty quick. But for now, we're doing pretty decent. So we can see the enemy, enemy North Carolina in the cap, and there goes the enemy North Carolina. Fantastic. One of our destroyers was able to deal with that battleship, and we don't have to worry about it anymore. So that is really, really nice. And as well, you know, nice little bump in points as well. So coming up in and behind Lynwolf now, he's on the starboard side of me, port side of me, sorry, and you know, we're just coming around the landmass here to try and get in behind some of these enemies and see what enemies are actually here. Now again, I mean, I guess we could have played a little more aggressively in this battle, but I was actually quite happy with the way things worked out, because even though, I mean, it turns out, you know, we're moving up in and behind the enemies, and it turns out a lot of the enemies are actually to the south of C, so we're not really in a great position, you know, in that nice flanking position we wanted to be in anyway. But I'm still glad that we did this, because without coming up here and doing this, we wouldn't have known that there were no enemy ships up here sort of hiding out, right? We wouldn't have known as well that, you know, most of the enemy destroyers are actually, well, I mean, there's one here in front of us, so I'm going to kill and dispatch really quick here. There we go. But the other 2 destroyers are actually to the south of sea as well, right? They're in and around there trying to harass our allies, and it kind of looks like they had the same plan, sort of a flanking maneuver as well. But we wouldn't have known this unless we have gone up this side, and quickly we are starting to get into range of some of these enemies here as well, especially like the turrets here that we have. So, I mean, it does work out quite well for us as well, and it prevents the enemies from moving in on B from this western side of the map as well. So it really does help secure B, and now we know basically, you know, the enemies are all over there. If we can corral them all to the edge of the map, that would be ideal. Get them as far away as possible from our caps, right? And then we can just sort of count down or count up the points while we're racking up damage, hopefully, to get the victory, which would be awesome. So you can see we have successfully come around from the northern point of the map. We're now pushing down the western side of the map. We do have a destroyer in front of us. I think it's a Kagero, so hopefully that player is actually going to get into the cap and start capping it. We do have an enemy cruiser off in the distance. I believe it's a York, so we're going to start engaging this York immediately. And I was really hoping to get this guy gone quickly, because I was figured that I could probably get some really nice and quick citadel shots into the player, but I do have some landmass here in front of me. I'm not going to be able to continue firing at the York, but luckily, you know, we do still have Lynwolf. Hopefully Lynwolf will be able to engage that player and take him out. We see another enemy destroyer, and as well, Beerman has split off from our group, and he's now heading south again as an extra insurance against making sure that the enemies don't actually take any of our caps here, right? So another advantage really of having the division and having that player in the, sort of in the background providing the long range support really makes that player flexible enough to turn back and address situations that may arise. So we do have an enemy destroyer here. We are going to try and get this player gone. I have two other friendly destroyers helping me take out this enemy destroyer, so that is fantastic. We don't really have to worry about the enemy destroyer doing too much damage, hopefully. And there we go. Enemy destroyer is gone. Fantastic. You can see the torpedoes that the enemy destroyer has launched, for the most part, are all going to hit the island. In fact, they all do hit the island, so no one even has to worry about those torpedoes. So fantastic. Enemies only have 3 ships remaining. We can see 2 of them are basically the center, to the, you know, in the south at the center of the map, and then we have the third one here, this York. The York is still alive, still going. Gonna see if I can't finish off this York, maybe get myself a bit more damage. You can see that the terrain indicator indicates no, those aren't good shots, but I take it anyway because I do know it's my bow guns and they probably will hit. Now they do hit, not too well though, didn't do a whole bunch of damage, but still, I mean, victory is basically ours. 937 points at this point in time. We don't have too much more to worry about. You can see the York isn't going to go down without fighting, right? Obviously the player is maneuvering, cutting the throttle and turning as well, so it's nice to see that this player didn't actually just give up at the last minute. There we go, final shots go in and we do manage to take out the York. It's 1,000 points actually, and battle is over and victory is ours. And another really nice game that I enjoyed, just because of the teamwork that was involved. I mean, you can see, yeah, I didn't do that much damage, and I can definitely do more damage in the rune. But again, you know, the division, the damage was spread out amongst the division. So if you look at at the division as a whole, you know, we'd get some better results there in terms of damage done. But again, very happy with the way the teamwork played out in this battle. So that is today's video. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. You know, remember to leave any comments you have for me in the video comment section below. Love reading those and responding back to them. Hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you were not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.